Where's the sex? This planet is a pit. What the hell? Stop burning. It's going too fast. You'll rip up the geosphere.
What's up, you guys? Let's start BoxingStar. I'm trying to create my character, but it's like I'm trying to decide which person I'm gonna get, cause they all strong and stuff. So I'm trying to see. Okay, let's get into it.
Transformers every day of the week. Transformers Energon is on tomorrow morning, right here on Kids Click.
So you guys are gonna go right here. I'm sorry, was few guys are in the way. I'm just gonna move you down there. Go to gear and then go here. Trying to see. I put these. Okay, never mind. Okay, protected.
Attention. Quicken Loans wants you to know that the U.S. government's Home Affordable Refinance Program, or HARP, is ending on December 31st. If you're not familiar with HARP, it's a U.S. government program designed specifically for homeowners who have little or no equity. A great feature of the HARP program is that most loans don't require an appraisal, and there are fewer income verification requirements. That makes it simple and fast. And even if you've been denied for a HARP loan in the past, new guidelines mean that you now may be eligible. Time is running out for you to take advantage of this money-saving mortgage program. Because your window of opportunity is closing soon, take action by calling Quicken Loans today. Nearly 3.5 million homeowners have already taken advantage of HARP, but there are so many more of you who could be saving hundreds of dollars every month on your mortgage. As America's largest mortgage lender, Quicken Loans fully understands all the HARP guidelines. We'll work with you to understand your specific circumstances and strive to find the financial solution that's best for you. Then we'll you never get to see. With the creature friends, it's the hour. See some of your folks today with creature power. Gonna go wild, wild, fast, gonna go wild, 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 fast. Gonna go wild, wild, fast, gonna go wild, wild, wild. The speed and living right. Talking flat and land right. Gonna go wild, wild, fast, gonna go wild, 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 fast. Gonna go wild, wild, fast, gonna go wild, wild, fast. Go wild, 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 fast. Seahorse rodeo.
On the reality, it's about 10% academic and 90% focus.
Perfect. Well, I know that Kevin and Mary have got a Style, unpredictable.
Playing on my phone.
He's made an art of being offbeat. There's a cadence to your speech. Yeah. I like that hearty laugh.
Hey, I'd like to hear you sing. Listen to that voice. I'd like to hear you in South Pacific. If ever I would leave you. Anthony Mason is Rosanna Bracken. Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay, because it's time to fight. Let's get into it and let's go.
As a computer geek in Independence Day.
Here's what jazz.
And as a math whiz who fights off dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
Must go faster.
Last summer, on the film's 25th anniversary, they erected a 25-foot statue of him in London.
There may have been several of these over your career, but this seems to be another Jeff Goldblum moment. Sort of.
Suddenly, at 66, he's become a fashion icon. Honored by InStyle magazine just the night before he invited us.
Want to know anything about this? I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Into his closet.
I'd like to see you in this.
To examine his eye for the unusual.
Very, very handsome.
Like the vintage frames he bought for his part in Grand Budapest Hotel.
Very professorial. Oh, sure. And in that part I had a hat and a goatee.
Even his skills as a musician are finally getting recognition. Goldblum, who for 20 years has played a weekly gig at an LA jazz club with the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra, named for a family friend, will release his first album next week.
What do you get from it? What I always got from it, early on in Pittsburgh, I had set my sights on acting. I was obsessed with it, but I loved playing piano.
Young Jeff Goldblum frustrated his music teacher at first.
Then when he brought this arrangement of Alley Cat with syncopation, which I felt inside was like...
Now, guys, I knew I wanted to lose. Now watch this, I'm going to show you this cool trick that we can do.
And almost immediately got a part in an off-Broadway play.
And then, Nation saw me in that and sent me up for my first movie audition, Death Wish, in 1973.
That was your very first film audition.
Watch this.
Number one. I was freak number one. Well-researched, that's correct. Early on, I got some lucky opportunities, and then Annie Hall, that's a funny line.
Yeah, you got one line, but it was a good one.
I got a good line.
I forgot my mantra.
He got to wear chaps and a cowboy hat in The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
I was a brain surgeon, a smart guy, a slash adventurer, just like me. And then the big show.
Friendship is the bread of life. Wait a minute. But money is the honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a strange thing to do.
His first leading role was in The Fly. The critic Roger Ebert wrote, "His natural oddness makes him perfect for the part."
What have I really done? All I've done is say to the world, let's go! Move! Catch me if you can. Waiter!
I was interested early on in making sure that my quirks, or whatever they were, didn't hold me back.
You call them quirks.
Yes. Oh, okay,
I'm just curious how you perceive them.
Well, look, even as I sit here now,
What did I tell you guys? Sorry.
pretending if I say I didn't know it was different than right now. It's a little funny here and there. But if you like it, it's just your cup of tea, and if not, it's a little too hot.
I'll tell you the problem with the scientific power that you're using here.
One part he almost didn't get, the role of Dr. Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park. Director Steven Spielberg told him,
We're working on the script, and his last draft didn't include your character. Your character's been cut out, and then I was like, oh. Mr. Spielberg, and you know better than I do, but off the top of my head, here's why I think this character might be useful, but the character wound up back in the picture. Yeah. And so did I. How about that?
back in his closet, On the wall, Goldblum has a gallery of his relatives.
Here is my dad.
His father was a doctor to Pittsburgh steelworkers. His mother worked in radio.
There's my sister's rendering of my mom. Block print thing. She just died a few years ago in her mid-80s. Here are my two brothers that are no longer with us. My brother Rick died when he was 23. I was 19 when he died in this Broadway show in New York. And did that really rock the family? Oh, yes. Yes, it did. Sure. Yeah, it did. Yeah, I'm sorry.
For the only time in our conversation,
That's okay.
he is speechless.
Do you like hats? Would you like to try on a hat?
Goldblum has lived in the same West Hollywood home for 30 years. High up on the hill in back, he has a bench. He brought his wife Emily here just after they met.
We'd only known each other a day, and we met at the gym, and I walked her up there and showed us a great view from up there. And then we kissed for the first time.
That's very romantic.
It's romantic.
Goldblum and Emily Livingston, a 35-year-old former Olympic gymnast, married in 2014. Now, at 66, he is a father for the first time.
Joe, 18 months. And Charlie, I get a big kick out of it. I'm fascinated by that.
Were you worried at all that you'd be able to keep up?
Well, there you go. Good question. That's very graciously put. There's that laugh again.
Some enchanted evening.
When I told Albert Brooks a few years ago, yes, whom I'm lucky to know a little bit, we're going to have a baby, then he went, I'll give you a word of advice. Look for schools with ramps. Ramps. He's so funny.
With new kids, a new album, and a new look, Jeff Goldblum says he's just a late bloomer.
Joe Reback, my 7th grade teacher, used to write on the blackboard a quote from Abraham Lincoln. I shall study and prepare myself so that when my chance comes, I will be ready. In 7th grade, and you still remember it. I remember it, and I'm trying to apply it.
And you feel ready.
What I'm saying is that this late blooming business, in all aspects of my personage, I'm flowering, and I'm fuller and fruitier than ever, yeah.
Next, brush with death.
What's going on? Oh my God.
Incoming storm on the way, which looks to break up another beautiful fall day.
You'll always be prepared with everything from cargo tech and cargo liners to floor liners and seat protectors. Because you never know when it's going to be a WeatherTech day. Order yours today at WeatherTech.com.
Every day, people are fighting type 2 diabetes with food, family, and Farxiga, the pill that starts with F. Farxiga, along with diet and exercise, helps lower A1C in adults with type 2 diabetes. It's one pill a day, and although it's not a weight loss drug, it may help you lose weight.
Do not take if allergic to Farxiga. If you experience symptoms of a serious allergic reaction such as rash, swelling, difficulty breathing, or swallowing, stop taking seek medical help.
Going on my
Do
phone.
not take Farxiga if you have severe kidney problems, bronchiolitis, or have bladder cancer.
No, you too.
Tell your doctor right away if you have blood or red colors in your
With all my heart.
pain or urine. Farxiga can cause serious side effects, including dehydration and yeast infections in women and men, serious urinary tract infections, low blood sugar, and kidney problems. Stop taking Farxiga and call your doctor right away if you have signs of ketoacidosis, which is serious and may lead to death.
Ask your doctor about the pill that starts with F, and visit Farxiga.com for savings. If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
Oh, this dude wanna play with me.
The new Capital One Saver Card. Earn 4% cash back on dining and 4% on entertainment. Now when you go out, you cash in. So what's in your wallet?
It was 40 years ago this month. The gruesome images from the South American nation of Guyana shocked America and the world. Hundreds of members of an obscure religious cult, transplanted from California and known as the People's Temple, were dead. Victims of a coerced mass suicide dictated by cult leader Jim Jones. Their deaths came not long after a deadly attack on a U.S. congressman's fact-finding mission to Guyana. Memories of that Jonestown visit still live large for current California Congresswoman Jackie Spear.
Good evening. The story out of Guyana is like a nightmare that just won't quit.
In November 1978, I was an attorney on the staff of Congressman Leo Ryan. Part of the mission he brought to Guyana to investigate Jim Jones.
Take your glasses off. Just to stare.
The wildly charismatic leader of the People's Temple. We had received credible reports of his followers being abused and held against their will. The compound was impressive. Members of Jonestown were certainly saying all the right things, no matter how rote. But someone slipped us a note asking for help. I felt my stomach turn into hard knots of terror as we realized our worst fears about Jones were true. When cameras were rolling, he spoke of how he loved his followers and would always have a place for them. But off camera, he muttered about treason and liars. He was cracking, and all I wanted to do was get out of there. Ryan assigned me to escort the first airlift out of Jonestown. As I was loading defectors on the two planes, a tractor-trailer with 7 gunmen arrived at the airstrip. The gunmen opened fire on us at point-blank range. 5 bullets pierced my body. Congressman Ryan and 4 others lay dead. What I didn't know then was that more than 900 followers of Jones, including hundreds of children, would later that night ingest cyanide at his command, an act some call suicide, but I call murder. I was helped into the baggage compartment for safety and later moved to a tent on the airstrip, where I waited 22 hours for help to arrive. Surviving against unimaginable odds can make every day that follows swell with...
Dang, dude, man, you want to get your butt kicked again?
We don't get to choose our formative moments. Very often, adversity and failure shape us more permanently than fortune and success. That
He just want the
certainly been
attention,
case
man.
In my life, pain yields action. It can introduce a firm...
Why he just want to get the attention? You don't have to get the attention if you don't want it. You're just getting beat up.
My energy. It convinced me that I had a purpose to devote my career to fighting for the voiceless.
Just stop. And I barely got touched.
Election night.
Being a good father is important to me. So being diagnosed...
Didn't see coming. You don't have to find them like Joseph. They will find you.
Oh my God, oh my God.
After 12 years of bad growth, injustice, that by this time
I
next
need my
year,
charger.
he was going to be second in command of the nation.
Oh,
Instead
wow,
of being in prison, he was going to be in charge, respected, admired, with people serving him. He could have thought, are you kidding? Do you see these bars I'm behind? Do you realize the boss's wife is against me? It's one thing to have a man against you, but when you have a lady mad at you and she happens to be married to your boss, you are going to need a miracle. You may be in one of these situations where it seems unfair, like it's never going to turn around. God is saying, by this time next year, it's going to change. By this time next year, you're going to be vindicated, promoted in a position of honor. Why are you worried? Why are you losing sleep? God is still on the throne. He hasn't forgotten about you. Your time is coming. This looks like a stumbling block that you can't get past. The truth is, it's a stepping stone that's about to take you to a new level of your destiny. In
In the scripture, a man named Haman worked for the king of Persia. He had a very influential position, but he let it go to his head. People would bow down before him. Everyone, that is, except Mordecai. Mordecai was a relative of Queen Esther. They were Jews. He knew you only bowed down before God. This made Haman so upset. He went to the king and said, "There's this group of people that don't obey your commands. They're troublemakers and they need to be killed." The king issued a decree that on a certain date you could wipe out all the Jews. But one night this king couldn't sleep. He asked his assistant to bring him one of the books that had the city's history recorded in it. The assistant randomly grabbed a book and gave it to the king. The king opened to a random page and started reading. Just so happened it talked about a good deed that Mordecai had done for the city. The king was so impressed, the next morning he called Haman in. He said, "Haman, what do you think we should do for a man that's done a good deed and has never been recognized by the city?" Well, Haman was so arrogant, he thought the king was talking about him. So he played it up real big. He said, "King, I think we should put a royal robe on him, have a big parade, march him up and down the streets with someone shouting what a great man he is." The king said, "I love that idea. Now go find Mordecai and do just what you said." Queen Esther told the king what Haman was really trying to do. Instead of getting rid of all the Jews, the king got rid of Haman. He reversed the decree and gave Mordecai Haman's position. If you told Mordecai in the middle of the trouble, when it looked like the Jews would be annihilated, that by this time next year, Haman is going to be gone, the king's decree is going to be reversed, and you're going to be in a position of honor, he could have thought, that's too good to be true. How could all that possibly happen? God has ways that we've never thought of. You may be in a difficult situation. People coming against you. Finances don't look good. Trouble in a relationship. You could be upset, worried. Stay in peace. It is not permanent. Like with Mordecai, by this time next year, it's all going to be turned in your favor. Because you honor God, He's dealing with those enemies. He's fighting your battles. Those people that are trying to stop you are not going to succeed. It looks like they have the upper hand. They have more authority. They may be over you. The good news is our God is over them. He controls the universe. Keep doing the right time next year. The enemies you see today, you will see no more. By this time next year, what was meant for your harm will be turned to your advantage. Now, Joel, this is encouraging, but I don't see how it can happen for me. Neither did Mordecai. Neither did Joseph. Neither did that 12-year-old girl. You don't have to see how. All you have to do is believe. When you believe, angels go to work. When you believe, forces of darkness are pushed back. When you believe, things begin to change in your favor. I talked to a man that had been in prison since he was 17 years old. He was convicted of selling drugs and sentenced to 40 years. He'd been watching us in prison with the other inmates. He'd given his life to Christ, had a whole new outlook. One message I talked about how God is going to do things sooner than expected. That took root down in his spirit. He started telling the other inmates he was going to get out soon. They looked at him like he wasn't all there. He had 25 more years left. 6 months later, the warden called him in and said, because of good behavior, we're going to commute the rest of your sentence. You are free to go. Those other prisoners looked at him like, will you pray for us? He was released last week. The first place he came was to Lakewood. He flew here from another city. I met him afterwards. It big him. By this time next year, you're going to see things happen that you never dreamed would happen. By this time next year, you're going to be at a new level in your health, in your finances, in your career. By this time next year, you're going to be free from that addiction. God is up to something. He's about to show out in your life. Well, Joel, you're just getting people's hopes up. I don't think this is going to happen for me. You're right, it's not going to happen. This is for people who believe. You have to let the seed take root. Here's the key. Don't talk yourself out of it. Talk yourself into it. 2 Kings chapter 7. The Syrian army had surrounded the city of Samaria and cut off the Israelites' food supply. The people were desperate. It looked like it was the end. The prophet Elisha showed up and said to the Israelites, by this time tomorrow, there will be so much food that you could buy bread for a penny alone. People looked at Elisha like he had lost his mind. They were surrounded, starving to death. It seemed impossible. One of the main leaders said, Elisha, even if God opened the windows of heaven, that still wouldn't happen. There were 4 lepers sitting outside the city gates of Samaria. They thought, we have nothing to lose. We're going to die anyway. Let's walk down to the enemy's camp and see what they're doing. They started walking. God multiplied the sound of their footsteps. The enemy thought a huge army was attacking. They panicked and took off running for their lives. They left all of their food, their supplies, their gold, their silver. The lepers went back and told the Israelites,
Be able to watch people do what they do is
your wife and daughter are here, Mr. Slater. Thank you, Max. Hey, you both look dynamite tonight. Hey, let me help you with this, honey.
not necessary, but thank you.
I hope you'll forgive me for promising you to screech here.
Alright, Jessica, you know what?
Can I take your order? I'll order for everyone next.
Thank you, Slater, but you know I like to order for myself. You're not a bad guy.
I just woke up that morning and I coughed up blood and I called my dad. When we went to the doctor's office, he figured out my lungs were like nearly almost completely filled with blood.
And this has progressively been going on for 2 weeks to the point where his body was just basically just collapsing and dying on him. They just expressed to us that we needed to be prepared to pack our bags and leave without Nate. And I'm sorry. I just remember looking at him in total disbelief and just asking him, are you serious?
It was pretty emotional. It was the hardest day of my life.
Eventually what we found out was Wagner's granulomatosis. I'm sorry, it's a tongue twister sometimes. We just call it Wagner's. This was the first day that we got Nate outside. We have like a little courtyard area. When we look at this picture, I can just see how frail he was.
That whole day we kept saying we on our way back.
I had gone from 115 pounds to only 80 pounds. I love football because it was like motivation for me since people said I wasn't going to be able to play sports again.
For my child to be happy, healthy, and normal, he's got to be playing football. That's what he loves to do.
Now starting quarterback for our 8th grade team.
The first pass that Nate made, there was a set of parents that were like, there's a miracle.
This side is going to be a clown. He handled himself like a wrestler. He was fast with a headlock. It was all business. No love in his heart. Little less luck and I'd be playing the lead of funeral right now. Don't you see the logic?
I swear, I didn't have anything to do with that.
Come on, down.
Will you just listen? I didn't send anybody. I'm no good. I'm legit. I don't even have so much as a parking ticket against me. Go ahead. Look me up.
You don't have a secret yet, Anna. That's a
a small construction company that went bust. Kev was very bright. Moved up to big money. Sam, he never had to happen. Stayed a hustler. A couple of years ago, he went to jail for mail fraud. He's still there. So, what do you mean, so? That's why I changed my name. Do you think I want a thing like that to get around? How I look? Big wrestling promoter, your brother in a cell.
Cross with your reputation, what have you got to lose?
Sure. You can laugh. Do you remember what happened to boxing? Too many hoods. Too much stink. Boom. Down the drain.
You better be careful. Be careful you don't go down with it. Yes. Right. Thank you, Warren. Thanks for trying. Cross was telling the truth. His brother's in jail, and he doesn't know who won and killed you, kid, period. He doesn't want to see anybody, talk to anybody, and he's within his legal rights. So, no hits, no runs, no mileage. Has a ladder got out of my bedroom. Top to bottom. No prints, nothing. Figured, why should we start getting lucky now? I've never seen one like this, Amos. It keeps twisting like a snake. You can't get a grip on it. There's one that leads right back to the catch. I'm not even sure of that. It has to. You've got an ex-wife, a doctor, a publicity woman, and a man in a cell all tied back. And you've got a golf pro and a wrestling promoter who don't. That is what it's sporting, Bill. And it's the deathless itself. What about it? But that doesn't make sense either. What's Frank Cross doing on it when it's his brother who's the cat's partner? Yes, I know. All we need is a common denominator, a hook. A reason for 6 people to die. Anyway, you twisted it, keeps weaving around the get. You know, I still think the best pipeline to him is through his ex-wife. I think I've been to once around again. Hi.
And they said it couldn't happen.
Did it? What?
The lovely dream and the moment of realization.
Well, I hope I didn't disturb it.
That'll be the day. It's something delicious. I could get Jason to rustle you up a pair of trunks.
No thanks for wrestling against the law. I'd like to have a little talk with you.
Would you like some champagne?
Thank you.
Jason, some more champagne, please. Well, I'll roast the chickens.
Oh, I've been meeting some people who will be your ex-husband.
It's a big love, isn't it, Jason?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
He's chartered members, Jason and I. We're both served our God.
Really?
Jason worked for Alex before we were ever married.
And he's been working for you ever since the divorce?
Except for the time he left to go to sea.
Oh, he was seeing Jason. That's one way to see the world. You like the sea? Every place looks the same from a freighter captain. If there's anything else, ma'am.
Can I drink this before you drag me to wherever you drag us?
I like that one too.
So I sort of have these designed for dashing teeth.
When we come back, Democrats stay here in that neck-and-neck race to become governor of Georgia.
This is not a video game. This is not a screensaver. This is the destruction of a cancer cell by the body's own immune system. Thanks to medicine that didn't exist until now. And today, it can save your life.
Yeah, we're
were mixing with the Spanish. What was the regular wearings with the Mayans was so simple and just...
How about we go together? Yeah. Georgia made the same trend. More than 1.6 million early votes already.
Your God, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. Great. What are you doing here in town?
Well, what's wrong with coming to see my sister? Nothing. It's just the first time you've been to Disney in 16 years. You aren't going to be dropping in like this all the time, are you? Don't worry. Come here. Come here. Where's Howard and Jerome? In Denver. Oh, how are they? Oh, Howard's fine. He's still doing the weather TV station. He started his new series last week, The Jet Stream Review. We're all settled into the new house, and Jerome started 5th grade. And we planted petunias in the garden, and Howard and I separated. Back up to the petunias. Now I left Howard. You got yourself another man? That's why you didn't play long. I knew you didn't come here to see me. As I got down to the filling station, it's a no. This cute little bank teller. That's what it is. I knew it. Does Mama know it? No, Mama doesn't know it. How would I know a guy in Glen Lawn? I live in Denver. You got a guy in Denver? No. He isn't anywhere. I'm not having an affair. Yeah.
Howard's having an affair?
No, you've met Howard. Nobody's having an affair. Sometimes things don't work out, that's all. You know, you think you know someone, and then you live with the man for a while, and you discover how many differences you have. You know, I say tornado, he says tornado. It happens.
I don't believe this. Yeah, I thought you and Howard were the perfect couple. But you're both so dumb.
What?
Hello? It's Red Hawk. Oh, hi, Howard. How are you?
Who's that?
Well, I can just guess what this phone call is all about. Yes, your wife is here. Just a minute.
I don't want to talk to him.
Loretta, you have to talk to him. He's your husband. You're not going to find anybody any better. Remember your dates in high school?
I'm not going to talk to him now.
Howard, she's just getting out of the shower. Look, come on, talk to me. He's still a nice, sweet guy.
Yeah? Well, that nice, sweet guy said to me, I never had trouble with my son when my first wife was alive.
Shut up. Did he say that?
Over and over and over again. He forgets that when she was alive, he wanted to kill her.
You're not going to stop him if he's like not talking. Even Reagan acknowledged what happened.